Hey everyone, it's Abby from Abby Road Creations, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys what you actually need to get started wire wrapping, along with a few bonus tools, which all will be budget friendly because that's what wire wrapping really should be. You don't need a lot to get started. That's what makes it such an awesome hobby. So to get started, we're going to have our 3 tools right here. You're looking at it. That's really all you need to get started on your very first wire wrapping project, okay? So you should not be intimidated at all. You need a basic set of chain nose pliers. You may already have a pair of these in the garage. Check out in the toolbox or something like that. You don't need special jewelry tools to get started with this, okay? The ones that I'm going to be sharing with you guys are from my very first plier set, which was the Beadsmith color-coded set of pliers. I got this kit because it was cheap and it had a lot of tools in it, and then I used it for 3 years after, even whenever I really opened my business and was selling collections and selling really intricate pieces of jewelry. I was using these pliers this entire set. Well, not the wire cutters, but that's another story. I was still using these pliers to make really intricate pieces of jewelry, so these are not very limiting either. These are gonna be your holy grail of pliers. You're gonna use these for almost everything you do. You're gonna use them for every single piece of work, for holding wires, bending wires, pulling wires, pretty much anything. Let's skip over to the next one, which is the round nose pliers. These are very necessary to have because you can't really make loops without them. With the chain nose pliers, you have a square tip. These you really need in order to make swirls, little loops, and bells for the jewelry that you'll be making. So these 2 are very necessary to get started. And then of course you need a set of wire cutters. This is the set that comes with it. They're not the best, but I mean, hey, they're cheap and they allow you to make jewelry, so why not use them? So I'm going to quickly show you what you can do with these before I show you the other 2 sets of pliers that come in this jewelry set, okay? So starting with your chain nose pliers, as you can see, it has an all flat interior, and depending on the ones that you have, they tend to have a bit of a square nose. Now these are good for making bends in your wire. This is just a scrap piece of wire I grabbed off my desk. So these are good for kind of twisting, making bends like that. Because whenever you are wire wrapping, I'm not sure if you've seen any of my other videos, your most important tool is going to be your hands and your fingers, okay? You really do want to minimize the amount of work you do with your tools because your tools can scratch the wire. Even if you have a $100 set of pliers, they can still cause scratches. And honestly, you get a lot more control and organic look by using your hands to make the actual moves of the wire. But your pliers are important to make bends, as you can see what I'm doing here, okay? Now moving on to the round nose pliers. Like the name says, they have a round nose. And these are going to be your swirl masters, all right? So whenever you're making swirls and wire wrap jewelry, this is what you are going to be using. Okay, along with loops. So these are used to make loops too. As you can see, that wire goes perfectly around the head right there. And then to show you how you use both, I start the loop with the round nose, and you can see that the chain nose pliers do come in handy with this too. They like to hold things flat so that you can continue working with the wire without the wire moving around or changing, okay? Now, if you want to learn how to do these, I'll make sure to do that in another tutorial. Let's focus on the tools for this one, okay? So once we have the shape that we want done, that's where the wire cutters come in. All right, now this is just a basic set of wire cutters. If you watch my videos, you'll hear me talking about flush edge wire cutters a lot. And these are not them. And if you're wondering what the difference is, let me pull out the upgraded set of pliers I have. These are still budget friendly. They're less than $15, okay? So if you start to like wire wrapping enough to invest in a better quality set of pliers, again, these are old, don't judge them by the looks. This brand right here is great. You'll find links in the caption below my video, okay? Now, a flush edge, if you can see, that is perfectly flat, okay? Whereas these, you see that little divot right here? It kind of gives the wire a pointed look whenever it's clipped, okay? See if you can see. See how that's pointed right there? Whereas the flush ones will have a bit of a flat edge, okay? So that is what you can do with the basic set of pliers that I showed you right here. Now, if you do get the super awesome color-coded plier set that I started with, you get 2 bonus pairs of pliers, all right? So that's 5 pairs for like $15 to $20. That is such an awesome deal. These are not going to be a main set of pliers that you will use on an everyday basis, but they are awesome bonus pliers, and it's always handy to have an extra set of pliers just in case you have to work with teeny tiny objects. So these are bent nose pliers, and I don't think I have ever used them in my life, except for opening jump rings or having to use 2 sets of pliers. I looked online before doing this video, and it said something about how if you need to get into a area of your pendant without the handles getting in the way, like maybe a hard to reach area, that's where these come in handy. You know, they kind of like can swoop down in there. I've never had that problem arise in my jewelry making in like the 8 years I've been making jewelry. So if anybody out there has a better explanation of how you use these, please leave a comment below and share it with the community, because I would personally love to know. The main thing that I use them for is to open and close jump rings. Jump rings are these teeny tiny connectors that we use to connect chains and other findings in jewelry making. And because they're so tiny and they can be hard to open, sometimes you need, there we go. Sometimes you need 2 sets of pliers to open up the wire and to close it, okay? So that is the added bonus of having these in your set, because it really is complicated to try and do those with round nose pliers. It is possible, but I mean, whenever you have free pliers, why not use them? The others are flat nose pliers, which I'm sure have a wonderful use. I haven't really found out what that is, but the thing that I like to use it for is, as you can see this bend I made earlier, how it's a bit wonky. If I want that to be really straight, I will go in with these pliers and use that to straighten it out. As you can see, now I have a much cleaner bend. So that is what I use them for. If you guys use them for something more different and way more awesome, please let me know in the comments. I do have another tutorial that I use these for, which is my mini flower tutorial, because these happen to be the perfect size to make bends with whenever I'm doing that design. All right, so if you need something that is this perfect size, that can be helpful whenever you're using these pliers to make little zigzags and stuff. Other than that, it's a bonus set of pliers, again, in your set. So that is it for tools. I am going to share with you another optional but highly recommended tool, and that is the Magnificent Nylon Pliers. All right, you can get these for about $6 on Amazon. I've got a link again. That's where I got mine, and they are really helpful to straighten wire. Okay, especially if you are working with plaited wire, which I assume a lot of you guys will because that's what they sell in the craft stores. This will help you to straighten the wire. So whenever you straighten wire, you may be wondering why you want to do that. And whenever you unroll wire from the spool, sometimes it's a bit wonky like that. And if you want to weave, you want a very, very straight wire. So these allow you to glide across the wire, straightening it out so that you have a nice fresh piece of wire to work with. Now, if you are trying to straighten out a very kinked out piece of wire like this right here, it's not going to be as pretty, but it can still help you, okay? So I do recommend getting these. These are also good if you are using plaited wire because sometimes you want to be able to grasp the wire without damaging it, and the nylon jaws can help prevent you from scraping the wire while you're holding it, okay? So these are good for straightening and for holding designs without risking scraping them with a metal jaw, with another metal jaw set of pliers, okay? So for our pliers and wire cutters, I think that's it. Remember, this is not the necessary things. These three are. Everything here is bonus, okay? Now, other things that you may need to get started wire wrapping, and I know you're shouting about wire, but I'm gonna get to that at the end because we do have a few other things I wanna cover, which is measuring tape, which is handy dandy. I'm sure you've got one in an old sewing kit. If not, head to the dollar store. Round objects, and these are just random things from around the house that you can use. Like, again, you don't need to invest in fancy things, okay? I still use these even though I have fancy stuff in my drawer. These are good for making any type of markers, paintbrushes, pencils are good for making round shapes. Okay. You can use larger ones too for making pendants. This is just an empty toothpick container. Like, my desk drawer really looks like a junk drawer, okay? I look like a kleptomaniac, but that's all right because they are helpful. If you do want to kind of level up a tiny bit, you can invest in a cheap ring mandrel. I think they sell these also on Amazon for like $6 or something. The only downside of these is that they're not completely round. They have this gap in the middle, which bothers me, but I mean, it still works whenever you want to create round objects because you can just center the wire and you can still get a pretty round shape. You can use these type of objects too for creating teardrop shapes. This gives you all different sizes, okay, in one tiny little ring mandrel. That way you can make lots of different shapes and sizes for pendants without needing to have 1,000 little trinkets in your desk. That's what I use to make these types of designs too. So if you do have the extra cash and you've already given wire wrapping a try and it doesn't make you want to pull your hair out, go ahead and invest in a cheap ring mandrel and it will bring sunshine to your day, I promise. All right, and this is the last little tool I have. If you have painter's tape, masking tape, it can help you. I mainly use this whenever I am weaving to help hold the wires together. And I'm gonna cut to a scene right now to show you how I do that, because I know you're probably wondering what the heck I'm talking about. So just hold on one second. Okay, so first off, wire weaving, for those who are confused by that, is a term where we have a tiny little base wire and we wrap it around a series of thicker wires in order to create a pretty pattern, okay? And it also creates a lovely frame. Maybe you have seen this before and that was what brought you to learn how to do wire wrapping, or maybe not, but I'm gonna show you how I use this tape. This can also be used to kind of hold stones in place, but I'm not gonna cover that because that's not really a beginner level thing. So the way that I use this is I just kind of lay my wires on and wrap it up. Now this is not gonna keep them perfectly secure, but it makes my life a tiny bit easier. And then that way, it kind of keeps them in place whenever I am weaving, okay? So that could be something useful to pull out of the toolbox in the garage also. And yeah, as you can see, my wires are not going anywhere now. It may leave a tiny bit of a sticky residue, which you can kind of wipe off or use something to clean it off with, depending on the type of wire that you're using. So now to talk about wire. Let's clear all this off. The wire that you need to get started, because I know that you are seeing gauges and millimeters and everything. Your must-have gauge, I'm gonna say, is 20 or 0.8 millimeter. You can do so much with this. I use this every single day. And there are so many tutorials that I have where you can use with this type of wire. This is gold colored wire. I don't really use plated wire anymore, but it is widely available in craft stores. It's what I started with. It's what so many other people started with, gold plated, silver plated. This is a European brand called Eurowire. For those of you in the States, you will probably see a lot of this brand too. This is the one I started with, and I still use it for a lot of different projects if I'm using plated wire. Now, if you are wondering what the best brand is of plated wire, I do not know. I've tried to figure that out for years, and the truth is that every plated wire, every company has inconsistencies, okay? Sometimes they will be awesome and perfect, and then other times the factory will send you really super soft wire that doesn't have a strong plating or doesn't have a strong, I want to speak French right now, sorry, anti-ternissement, tarnish protective finish. Wow, brain fart. Sometimes it'll have a spotty finish. I have seen this in every single brand that I have purchased, which was another reason why I eventually stopped using it. But if you are just starting out, do not worry about that. Don't worry about the best of the best. Just get whatever you can get and start wire wrapping. I mean, go to the hardware store. Oops, got a little excited there. Go to the hardware store and get you some copper wire. You don't need anything fancy to start wire wrapping, okay? Just to show you guys that I started wire wrapping. This is not at all my first. Please don't be intimidated. I was using coins and beads, okay, with like hardware store copper wire. Whatever gets your hands working is what you need to be using, okay? So, point of that is don't worry about quality if you're just starting out. Get what you can get, 20 gauge. And then for your weaving wire, this is where there is a bit of discrepancy. So I started out with 26 gauge, all right? It's a nice strong wire, but the truth is, somebody else pointed this out to me, a beginner at a craft market. She didn't like it that much just because it is a bit thicker and it can be harder to weave with. But my point was that I did like it because it's thicker and I had to do less weaving whenever I would do it. So either way you go, this is 26 gauge, this is 28 gauge. You just need a thin wire to help secure, and if you do want to practice weaving, you can practice weaving with that, okay? I am a fan of the 26 gauge. I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. So here you go. Whenever you are doing weaving patterns like that, you can do this entire design right here using 20 gauge wire and 26 gauge wire, okay? So these are some examples of things that you can do with the wire types that I just showed you. And because I did forget to include this information, this is dead soft copper wire. Totally forgot to tell you what type of wire to use. So dead soft copper craft wire, or just copper wire, is wonderful. Do not, I repeat, do not use steel wire. You will cry and hate myself and hate me for telling you to wire wrap, and I don't want you to cry and hate me, okay? Steel wire should just get rid of it. It's way too hard to work with. It doesn't like to be touched. Go get yourself some soft copper wire. If you find copper wire still too tricky to work with, I started out with aluminum wire, which is freaking butter. Like, it's not good to make pendants to sell with, but it is good if you just want to have fun and learn how to make things. It is very soft and movable. And that's what I started with. This was a pendant I did later on. It's scratched to pieces. I spent all summer trying to figure out how to do it. So now that we have covered wire, which is a dead soft copper or copper plated wire, we have covered your tools. Now I just want to share with you guys some of the things that you can make with these types of wire. Let's see what I got in my little jewelry box, like I showed you right here. If you want to learn wire weaving, this is a cool thing that you can make using everything that I've showed you here today. If you just buy some little beads, you can make these. I do have a tutorial on these. This is using 20 gauge copper and then a 26 gauge right here, which is the 0.4 millimeter. The earring tutorial, you can downsize and use 20 gauge wire here. A lot of the tutorials where I use a thicker wire, you can downsize to 20 gauge, okay? So I just want to give you guys some ideas and inspiration of what you can try with the bare minimum of supplies, okay? So this is the twisted wire pendant that I do have on my YouTube channel too. I think this one, I have a bit of polymer clay stuck to my finger. I think this one right here was like the very first tutorial I ever did. This can be done too with the tools I just showed you. So many things, even the Monstera leaves, if I can get to them. There it is. All right, I have a tutorial for this too. Also, it can be done. Whenever you're just starting out wire wrapping, please do not try and wire wrap stones, okay? Just get used to working with the wire, moving the wire, controlling it, because wire has a mind of its own and it's gonna drive you crazy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's frustrating in the beginning and you're gonna wonder, like, why do people do this for fun? And then you're gonna cut the video off and that's gonna be the end of your wire wrapping. So that's why you're gonna start with just making simple swirls. Use beads. This right here is the pendant that I bought while I was traveling that motivated me to start wire wrapping. And it's just made with a lot of beads and like some swirls and stuff, okay? So do whatever you can with that. Anything that has holes in it, work with that first before you try to encase anything that doesn't have holes in it, okay? Because the more control and like the more you have a feel for the wire and how to move with it, the more you'll be able to do later on. And also the more like happy you will be wire wrapping, because you won't just be spending your time frustrated trying to fit like a square peg into a round hole pretty much. Let me see if I have any other little pieces of wisdom for you guys. I'll reflect on that. And then I think that should be it for this video. All right, guys, well, I think that's it. Either my coffee is wearing off or I'm actually out of information. I do feel like I'm forgetting something, so if you think so too, if you think of anything that I did forget, please let me know in the comments. If you have anything to share with anybody, please do so. We are stronger whenever we work as a community and help each other. I love it whenever you guys leave little tips and stuff in the comments. It really makes my day. And I really hope that this made your day and that this helps you guys start your wire wrapping journey. If you do have any questions, let me know and I will be happy to help. All right, guys, and see you next time.